Hey, we are live and welcome here to reachkeep.com, and we're welcome to, let's see, I just messed all that up. There we go. Welcome here to our YouTube channel on Reachkeep. Glad to have you here. My name is Mike, and we are talking about presentation techniques today. We're talking about the importance of rehearsal and walking through everything. And when you are doing your presentation, you may not even think about this, and it kind of goes without saying that you would kind of have everything planned out. That's because it's become second nature to you. But if you're a new teacher, if you're a new preacher, if you're a new Sunday school teacher, you want to walk things through, and that's the importance of what we're doing here today, is talking about how to go through and kind of rehearse your lesson. So anyway, welcome aboard. My name's Mike. I'm the founding pastor at Sinclair Baptist Church, and we do some YouTube training here for Sunday school teachers, and we've kind of lately sort of morphed into everybody who is a presenter, who is a up in front. Whether you're an adult Sunday school teacher or a pastor, you are needing to hone your presentation skills. That's what we're here for today, is to help you to do that. Now, presentation skills are kind of opposed to the other side of the coin, which is what we call relational skills. And you really need both of those. As some people are born presenters, some people are kind of born relators. Like everything else, like your gift may not be, serving or sweeping floors or mopping, but I know, guarantee if you're in church work that you're going to be cleaning and doing things like that. We need to all make sure that we are broadly trained or cross-trained and can do everything, but we also want to spend time sharpening up on the things that God has gifted us at, so that we can be the very best tool for that. I have used a screwdriver for a hammer, probably used a hammer for a screwdriver, but they have their place, and that's what we want to talk about. Everybody's going to have a little bit of both. In fact, in the Christian world, the presenter-relator relationship is often more of like a 70-30 type of a thing. Like you spend a little bit more time presenting and a little bit more time relating, one of the other. And you want to spend time sharpening up on those and making sure that you are the best. Now, you can try to bring your other one up to here, but that's a whole other topic, taking things that we're not good at and working at. But what we really want to talk about is if you're kind of 70-30 and you are a relational person, you're still going to have to do that. But if you're a presenter, we want to talk about how to make you the best presenter possible when you're out there. And that's what you can go back and listen to last week. We talked quite a bit about some different ways to listen and to evaluate yourself and some of that. So anything, though, worth presenting is worth doing right. Okay, my dad used to say anything worth doing is worth doing right. And in this case, anything worth presenting is worth rehearsing. And that's going to be kind of the focus. In other words, the walkthrough ahead of time of your presentation. Your real presentation will be at, say, 11 o'clock, but sometime the day before, you want to have kind of a walkthrough where you go through and make sure you have all the pieces in order. And this is so important. And I've learned a lesson, and I want to share it with you. The more that you spend time thinking about things ahead of time and preparing, the more I've prepared, the better prepared I am, and the smoother things happen to go. It's just kind of a coincidence, I think it's just an important thing, because if you're like walking over to the chalkboard to grab something, you want to do that ahead of time. And I'm going to give you 4 steps here in just a second. We'll go through those 4 different actually methods. They're not necessarily steps, 4 different ways of doing it. But if you walk over to the chalkboard and you're going to write something and you notice that there is no chalk there, it's better to find that out like 2 or 3 hours before you do your presentation than right there when you go, could someone please get me some chalk, or you got to rummage through something to find a whiteboard marker. That's what we're talking about. Some of the simplest type of things and some of the ways that is done and that you can do that. So remember, if you are a presenter, you want to get really good at presenting. You want to walk through things ahead of time. Now, before we get to the 4 techniques, when is the best time to do this? The best time is not just immediately before. I mean, that can be kind of a little refresher time. But if sometimes you'll stumble across bigger problems, like let's go back to the chalk example. You go and you're going to write something on a board and there is no chalk, there is no marker. and there is no easy fix for that because they're in a whole nother room. You don't want to find that out just a moment or two before, 5 minutes before. You want to find that out the day before. So things along that line. If you, I have had working with children, of course, we're talking the kind of the focus of working with children at some regard here. I've gone to like blow up a balloon and found the balloon that I chose had a hole in it, so I'm blowing up. It's like it's not blowing up. Okay, it's better to find that out way ahead of time. So it's better to find out. Have it, like say if you're a preacher and you're doing this, you have some kind of object lesson, you're going to reference like a song. Let's say you're going to reference a hymn in the hymn book. You want to make sure that you've got it picked out and you've got a bookmark there so you can say, let me open up to this, 167, It Is Well With My Soul. Let me tell you the story of that particular thing. And you would have it and you'd have the page number ready and tell everybody to open their hymn book. And then you would go through and explain that song to them, the basis of that song. So that's what we're talking about. So there are several ways to do this. Let's jump into these four. The very first one is just absolutely memorizing everything that you're going to do. Now, not necessarily the content, but memorize, I'm going to do this first, then this first, then this, then this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And any lesson that you do, in any whether it's preaching or it's whatever, there's going to be probably a dozen little tiny steps from introductions to transitions to stories to memory verses to referencing an outside source, and then bringing your crowd back, and all of those kind of things. There's going to be a lot of those. I wrote down a typical lesson here, and this is sort of more for like a Sunday school activity type lesson where there would be some children, but you can kind of see some of this where it happened in an adult service as well. You would have a welcome, you'd have a prayer, you'd have an activity of some sort. In church, it'd be like a hymn, song or announcements. With children, you have then like a memory game, then you have a lesson, and then your lesson would be, not just 20 minutes of nonstop, yakking, but it would be 6 or 7 minutes and then a change, and then 6 or 7 minutes and a change, and 6 or 7 minutes and a change. And those changes need to be shorter if you're working with younger people. If you're older people, you can get away with a little bit longer. Then some type of activity, and then a prayer, and then sort of a final announcement. Or if you're with children, we always have an extra activity ready to go because you're waiting for parents to come pick them up, and you want kids to, you don't want to just, okay, we're all done. Just, they'll get in trouble. They'll start running around doing stuff. So we always have like a final activity. Hey, let's replay that last thing. And so you want to have everything kind of ready for all of those type of things. So the first one here is just to simply memorize that entire list and know exactly where you're going with every one of those and how that is going to work. The second one here is just actually to create a list on a 3x5 card or something like that. And I start out almost every one of my days with a list on a 3x5 card, and I have all the things I want to get done, and I start check them off and that type of thing. You can start, and make sure you put them sequential. You're going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, going to do this, and that's a very good way to do it. And it really helps you, especially if you do that a couple of days ahead of time, because you go, number 7 really needs to be number 3. And you can rearrange that on paper in a very simple way and kind of get your lesson a little bit better, especially with children. Like with memory verses and activities, you can plug in a memory activity, a memory verse, or put on a board, and it's sort of an activity. They're going to say the verse along with you. You're going to plug that in, and that could be the third thing you do, but it could also shift down to number 7 very quickly, and you can kind of move them around. And there are a few things that you can actually kind of flex during, play it as you go. But I like to have them all done, but I go walk through it all, and you have that list, and you go, I really need to finish with this, or I really need to start with that, and kind of move things around a little bit. So the note card thing is really good. In addition to that, and the more that you run on the note card, the more you have it memorized. So you're really kind of getting better at that with your lesson. You kind of know, I am going through all of this, and here's what I'm going to do. Now, don't be totally static where, in other words, every single lesson you do, you start out with prayer and then a scripture and then a memory verse and then another prayer and then another scripture. You don't want to just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 52 weeks in a row. You do want to change some things up. And there's teachers, you will find some tremendous more attention when you just start out and say, okay, kids, let's all stand up and go over to the whiteboard here. And you put a big verse on your whiteboard. You have a board like I've got behind me, and you put a verse on the board and you put it all down there. And then you have that verse. You say, now we're going to open in prayer in just a moment. But first of all, what do you think the most important word is in that verse? And someone might go, yeah, it's the word, God or our Father. Say, that's right. We're going to pray to our Father. And maybe you can teach them the Lord's Prayer, or, something along that line. So you can shift gears like that with Sunday school, of course, much easier than you can in a typical adult service. Although in adult services, you can really flex with some things too, and people will not have a revolt. They will not beat you with sticks as you walk out the door because you gave your introduction right at the beginning before you even had an opening prayer. And I've done this many times. Folks, well, I'm really glad you're here today because I got something I got to say. It is on my heart. And you just kind of pour something out. And in just a moment, we're going to open with a song and prayer like we normally do. But I just wanted to let you know, I can't wait to get to this scripture and share it with you. You do that, people's eyes are like, whoa, they're wide open. No one will be mad at you. No one will be upset with you. In fact, they will go, wow, Pastor, that was a great message today. Thanks for sharing your heart. So anyway, the idea is you can memorize those. You can create just a list where you have kind of a checklist. The third one is one that I like to do. And it's I call it prop placement. It's where I know what I'm going to have, and I have these different particular items. I have them in places where I know that I'm going to use them. That's didn't really explain that very well, but let me kind of do it with the welcome and then the prayer and then the activity. If we start out with an opening prayer and I want to take them over to the whiteboard, then I go over to, I know that I'm going to have that whiteboard start, and we're going to go over there to the pray, and we're going to pray. And then we're going to all go sit down on the chairs. And when I get back to the chairs, I'm going to have my activity stuff right there. If I was doing the kids' activity, I would have, say, the construction paper and the crayons, sitting right there. And then when we get done, building, drawing little crosses, we're going to cut them out and paste them on something. I'd have the scissors setting over here, and I would walk over to where the scissors are. And when I'm done with that, I know we were going to have a little activity game. I would have a couple of the balloons that we were going to use for an activity. I would have those right there, and I would walk to those balloons, and then I would have that ready to go. And that's called kind of prop placement. And you can do this. I've done this oftentimes doing Vacation Bible School or a larger presentation, what we call platform presentation, where you're not teaching 4 or 5 or 6 kids, but you're teaching 25 or 30 kids. This is often the case in a junior church, and that is where you just set you prop your things out, right here. So you're going to start out. I have my balloon. We'll say we're going to start out with a balloon activity. Then I have a marker to remind me to go to the board to write the thing. And then I have my Bible right there. And then I have a song sheet right there. And then, working my way across, and when I get to the end of things, I'm done. Okay. So that's a way to do that. And it's just called the prop placement activity, where you take the things that you're going to use, and they don't have to be large things, and they can be redundant. I've had where I've done Bible, something, such and such Bible, and I've actually got a couple different Bibles and set them out there. So I use this Bible, and then I got another Bible, and I use it for here, and I had already turned to the verse, and I was able just to read it to the kids, and they didn't really realize that I'd used a couple different Bibles. That's not a big deal with them. Okay, so prop placement is a great way to do that. If you're in an adult service and you're doing something like that, you would have an illustration where you're giving an illustration, and then you want to, show something to the adults that's a prop. You would have it, sitting over there, and you would walk over, show them that, and then you'd come back over. But you'd make sure it's set up and it's ready to go. And that works best if it's done, way ahead of time. I mean, you can't do it a week ahead of time because people move your props. The janitor come in, clean everything up. That kind of thing. I use a trash can often for a sermon illustration, and I have done that where I've left a trash can on the stage, and people come up with like, Pastor, there's trash can up there. Can I get it? No, 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 leave it there. It's for, we're going to be talking out of Timothy about, are you a trophy or a trash can? So I mean, you kind of can use some things there, but you can do that like the day ahead of time and make sure you have all your props and that they're the right size and that they work. And again, your whiteboard markers are working, et cetera, et cetera. So the last one here is kind of what I call walkthrough staging. And it's sort of a combination, again, of all of these. It has to do with the movement. And it's where you just go, I'm going to tell this illustration from this place. In other words, I want to walk down. If you're with children and maybe you're doing the platform thing where there's a large amount of children, I'm going to walk down and I'm going to walk into the children while I tell this type of illustration. Jesus was among the people, and maybe you'd walk down into the children like that. If you're a pastor, it'd be like, I'm going to go to this side or I'm going to go to that side. Or oftentimes I kind of talk about the two sides. You have this choice and you have this choice. And I kind of look at my auditorium and make sure that I know, okay, this one, this window, that direction. I'm going to look at this direction. We're talking about eternal, talk about temporal over this way. And then every time that you're talking, when you talk about temporal, you walk this direction. And every time that you do the eternal, you walk that direction. The beauty of all that is when you're, rehearsing your thing, it starts to become sort of a second nature. You start to move this direction with when you're talking about a negative type of verse, and this one with kind of a positive type of verse in that sermon. And again, it's a good presentation skill to have some type of movement. We all know that, you got different hand movements, and it's like, how will I hold my hands while I'm teaching this particular portion of the lesson? Is there a certain thing? I want to do 3 things. I want to teach you 4 things. And here we go. Number 1. All right, let's get to number 2. Let's get to number 3. And you work your way through those things. A very effective way to just kind of work your way through the points is to just go. And now the second point. Let's get to number 2 here. All right, number 2. Let's take a look. Number 2. All right, let's get to number 3. And when you do that, you draw attention. They understand you're at the third point and you move forward. So those are all kind of the walkthrough type of things that are part of presentation. Now, all of this falls into what we would call rehearsal skills. It's you're rehearsing. You're actually doing the thing ahead of time. Now, again, not a full-blown memorization, but the idea of walking through. When I was a high school kid, back before I came to know the Lord, not high school, college. I went to junior college, and a roommate of mine was going to be in a play, and he said, "Hey, we need some extras in the play, and would you like to come be in a play?" And I had never been in anything like that before. I said, "Well, what will it require?" He says, "Oh, you just got to come, and I think you're going to walk in, and you might have to say a half a line or something." And so I went, and me and the guy that was with, we ended up, and I don't remember anything about the play, but we were like thugs and bank robbers or something. We kind of walked in and said, "Give me your money." And then the police started coming in from the other way. We said, "All right, let's go." And we ran off. So we were, on stage for a short amount of time, and then we were gone. And that's all we did. And again, I have no idea what the play even was about. But we went to so many rehearsals. I mean, and the first one was like, okay, the director's up there. Okay, now you're going to be walking in from this side, and you're going to walk in from this side. And then when you stand, now walk a little further. And the 2 people had to walk the right way, the one a little further, so people could see them both. And of course, you had to turn your face towards the crowd when you were saying, "Let's go," even though the policeman was over there. You're like, "Here comes a policeman." You were facing towards the crowd, even though the policeman was over there. You were presenting your voice towards the crowd. And that was an important lesson for me. I remember it. And again, I have no idea what the thing was even about. But it was sort of like multiple rehearsals just for the puny little line that we did. And that's important. If it's good enough for a school play, it's good enough for television, good enough for, all these other things. I mean, that rehearsal, think of all the rehearsal goes into, the football and NFL. You go down that way and go that way, and I'll throw the pass, and you'll be right there. And it's amazing. You've seen where they throw it and the guy turns and the ball is right there. That's because they practiced and practiced and practiced. And folks, if there's anything worth practicing and working on rehearsing for, it is the presentation of the gospel. It is a presentation of the things of God. And I want to encourage you to be a person that really hones and sharpens your presentation skills, that you take time to do this. Go back and listen to last week's, actually, I think it was 2 weeks ago, the one that we did on presentation skills for Bible teachers and preachers. Got some good things on there too, some good advice on where to listen and how to do good. If this has been helpful for you, if you'd hit the like button there, we appreciate it. If you're a YouTuber here, this on YouTube, let's see, you'd hit the share button, I think it is, or you can hit the subscribe button. As always, we appreciate that. Helps us to get out and about and around the world even more and help more churches and more pastors. Please share this with a friend. We are grateful for you talking this thing up, and we appreciate all the depth that Reach Keep has been able to have across Christendom here, helping people become better presenters and Sunday school teachers. So anyway, from Wyoming, this is Mike. I'm going to sign out for now. Thanks again for being with us, and make sure you join us next week as we continue learning our presentation skills and how to be the most effective teachers and preachers we possibly can be. So I will let you go. God bless you. Don't forget to serve the Lord with gladness and enter into his gates with thanksgiving. We'll see you next week. You guys take care.